Hello, and welcome to another episode of Perspectives from the Informed Perspective. We're Penny and Jenny, and if this is your first time tuning in, we're so glad that you're here. This podcast is a space where we explore what it means to build strong, thoughtful communities grounded in our local lives and enriched by diverse perspectives from all around the world. We believe meaningful change starts with listening, really listening, to voices and experiences that challenge or expand our own. Today, we're exploring the subject of respect. Is respect what's missing in the world right now? Sometimes it might feel like it is. We all know how quickly conversations can turn into arguments, how often disagreement can become attack or dismissal. Part of the challenge, however, might be that respect means different things to different people. Is it kindness, courtesy, recognition, admiration, or is it something deeper? If respect was only about being polite, then simple acknowledgement would be enough. But we know it's more than that. Respect is complicated. We tend to give it to people we admire or agree with. But what about those we don't? Can we respect someone we actively dislike? In practice, respect often comes down to fairness, basic civility, and a willingness to listen. These aren't grand gestures, they're small daily choices. And while respect doesn't always require compassion, it often grows alongside it. Real respect isn't about liking someone, it's about how we choose to treat them, especially when it's difficult. It starts with recognition, showing someone that their voice matters, that they're worthy of consideration. We learn it from role models, parents, teachers, mentors, leaders, people who show integrity, fairness, and humility. Without it, respect can easily become empty politeness, blind obedience, or a surface-level rule that we follow without heart. Respect is both inherent and earned. Everyone deserves a baseline of civility simply for being human. But deeper respect, trust, admiration, genuine consideration comes through consistent actions and integrity. Children notice it, communities notice it, and without it, relationships and societies can struggle. Respect touches every part of life. In schools, it shapes learning and dialogue. In workplaces, it builds collaboration and trust. In society, it's the antidote to prejudice and division. And yes, it begins with self-respect. Because when we value ourselves, we set boundaries, we act with the integrity, and can treat others fairly. Ultimately, it isn't just tradition or etiquette, it's a deliberate everyday choice. A choice to listen, to hold space for difference, a choice to value others as we hope to be valued ourselves. With it, understanding, empathy, and even reconciliation become possible. So today we invite you to think about what respect really means to you, to the people around you, and to the world we share. How can we bring more of it into our lives? One conversation, one choice, one relationship at a time. Today, we're hearing from a panel who know quite a lot about the importance of respect. But before we hear from them, I thought we could reflect on a few voices. Eric Pham from The Theory of Love. Respect is not fear and awe. It donates the ability to see a person as he is, to be aware of his individuality and uniqueness. Attributed to the author Bryant McGill. Treat others with respect and you will always be wealthy because your community is your real currency. Brené Brown in Dare to Lead. If we want people to show up, we have to be vigilant about creating a culture in which people feel safe, seen, heard, and respected. Henry David Thoreau in Civil Disobedience. Let every man make known what kind of government would command his respect, and that will be one step toward obtaining it. Leo Tolstoy in A Calendar of Wisdom. The more respect that different objects, customs, or laws are given, the more attentively you have to question the right these things have to this respect. And F. Scott Fitzgerald in Tender is the Night. If you spend your life sparing people's feelings and feeding their vanity, you get so you can't distinguish what should be respected in them. And George Bernard Shaw in Man and Superman. The more things a man is ashamed of, the more respectable he is. And finally, my favorite, A.A. Mill, The House at Pooh Corner. It won't break, whispered Pooh comfortingly, and perhaps I'll make up a song, and people will say it was so grand what Piglet did that a respectful Pooh song was made about it. So, on that note, I'm going to pass over to Jenny to introduce today's guests.
I've got a big smile on my face now that Winnie the Pooh has been referenced. Thank you, Penny. So first up, we've got Dr. Julie Pham, who's the founder of Curiosity Based, an organization helping people bring more curiosity into their workplaces and relationships. She's the author of the best-selling book, Seven Forms of Respect, a guide to transforming your communication and relationships at work, and gave a TEDx talk on curiosity as a practice. Julie's been a journalist, historian, marketeer, and non-profit leader, and even ran her family's Vietnamese language newspaper during the Great Recession, and what she calls her real-life MBA. She earned her PhD in history at Cambridge University as a Gates Cambridge Scholar and graduated with great honour from UC Berkeley, where she studied history. And Paul Meshanko is the founder and president of Legacy Business Cultures, and the author of a highly acclaimed book, The Respect Effect, using the science of neuro-leadership to inspire a more loyal and productive workplace. Based in Atlanta, Paul has spent over 2 decades helping organizations around the world build best-in-class workplaces, cultures. His work blends psychology, neuroscience, and organizational science, and his training materials have been translated into 24 languages. Paul has coached and inspired leaders across 5 continents, partnering with top organizations from Toyota to DuPont to the Cleveland Clinic and the US Department for Justice. And Claudia Hackman is a personal stylist, etiquette expert, and life reinvention advocate. With over 35 years in the fashion industry, she has founded and managed successful ventures, collaborated with renowned designers, and helped countless clients discover confidence through style and self-care. In her late 50s, Claudia embraced a new chapter, aging with intention, vitality, and joy, and now guides others in navigating life's transitions with grace. Through her work and her soon-to-launch platform, Power of Etiquette, she blends timeless etiquette with modern, multicultural perspectives, showing that style and respect are tools for authentic connection and self-confidence. Claudia's philosophy is the every transition is an opportunity for reinvention, and the best is always yet to come. So we've got so much to cover, from etiquette to neuroscience to curiosity. So let's get started, Penny.
And if this panel can't answer our questions on respect, I don't know who can. So, Julie, I'd like to come to you first today. A lot of the work that you're doing is obviously based on curiosity. That's the name of your business. But I think a lot of that is linked to how that is interacting or connected with respect and respectful behavior. Sometimes it's hard to stay curious, especially when we disagree. How can we maintain curiosity and respect even in tricky conversations?
It starts with a pause. And so when people feel disrespected, to pause and to slow down and to ask themselves 2 questions. And so the 2 questions, the first is, as you're entering a difficult conversation after you feel disrespected, is to ask, do I want this person to learn from me? Yes. And then the second question is, am I willing to learn from them? Hmm. And with that one, it's okay to say, no, I'm not ready. It's actually much better to admit that now than to go into a conversation and possibly damage it even more because we think we're ready when we're not ready. Because we can all perform listening. We can all parrot backwards. We can all nod and think, yes, I want to hear you, but actually, I really want to convince you of what my perspective is and why you were wrong. And so in this, there's asking yourself those 2 questions. And if you're not ready, the second thing is just go practice with someone else and say, hey, can you help me understand, or can you help me think of questions I can ask? So I'll give an example. I got this email from a client who asked me for something. I got an email from a client who asked me for something, and I thought I was actually offended by this. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they asked me this. And I wrote back a little something that sounded slightly snarky. And then I talked to a friend and I said, this happened. What do you think? What do you think I should do? And she said, why don't you just ask what they meant? Oh, okay. I went back and I asked, and the request was actually really reasonable. And so There are times where we just need to pause, talk to other people, and to recognize that practicing curiosity is hard. And so there are times where it's just, I don't want to practice because I'm feeling that they are assuming certain things of me. So yeah, I would just start with having to acknowledge when it's hard, to practice with others so that you can feel ready to enter conversations. And also another thing is, I actually think that there's a difference between uh, disrespect. Well, a lot of people, when people talk about respect, we talk about it as respect and disrespect. And I actually define disrespect as intentional. So, Penny, I know you don't like it and I did it anyway, right? You told me, but oftentimes we just don't know. And so I think there's disrespect versus lack of respect in the forms, a lack of respect, I just don't know that that matters to you. And for us to also think about when we are feeling disrespected, to ask, is that because that person just doesn't know me that well? Or maybe they're applying the golden rule and they're doing what they think they would like. Or is it because I've condoned it? So many times, maybe they come late to meetings, and every time that happens, I say, that's okay that you're late. And so they think it's okay. So just to think about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of just thinking as well that, I mean, for us, in the world that we're moving around in with schools and everything, it's often that communication that you might have with other parents potentially, where, I mean, it's just what's coming up in my head, but I'm sort of thinking of that example when they potentially messages, I'd say this is quite often in emails, it's really easy, isn't it, to like misconstrue what the other has said. And I think we are quite quick, maybe because we're more stressed and more busy or whatever, but maybe we are quite quick to think, oh, that's so disrespectful and they don't get me and more. And I think you're right. I think a lot of that might be that we don't take the time to consider where they're coming from. And then, we're in Warsaw, we're in Poland. So it's also that international thing with many different cultures, which also adds another layer to it, which means that the way people do behave and show up, you might not be familiar with, right? And yeah, I think again, like with emails and that kind of thing, that's another way, you miss the nuances and you take with your own filter, what you want from these conversations.
I'll just give you an example of when I lived in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I lived in Vietnam as an adult, as an American coming back, and people would constantly cancel on me last minute, and I couldn't understand why. And then finally I asked a Vietnamese friend, why are they canceling on me last minute? They must know ahead of time. And he explained, oh yeah, they know. They're canceling last minute because if they told you ahead of time, that means that they were making a choice, and the choice is not to be with you. If it's an emergency, they have no choice. Oh, and I never would have come up with that logic. And so there's always a reason. And it's often not the reason that we think it is, because we're just going through our filter. And so that's that opportunity to get curious.
But
I
then
think
when
we're
we
all, sorry, Penny, we're all loaded with so many expectations of how we think or how that might be delivered that, it's so insightful for me, Julie, that like disrespect is, in its pure real form, it is intentional. And actually, a lot of my frustrations lie when I think that there's intent behind it. And there isn't. There isn't any intent. And I'm going to put my hands up and be like, as a mother to young children, when I'm trying to teach my young boys, listening and respect and, doing as you're told reasonably, and they don't. And I think there's intent that they're not intent. They're still learning. They don't understand that they're doing it intentionally. My eldest, who I often 7-year-old though, that I often reference, he cannot get his head around what answering back is. And he just cannot. However, I mean, I think, he's like, I don't understand.